Welcome to another life-transforming story. The evening at the Grand Turner Mansion in Surrey, England, was supposed to be filled with laughter, soft music, and clinking glasses. The mansion stood like a jewel on the edge of the countryside, its windows glowing warmly against the cool night air. Cars lined the long driveway, their headlights cutting through the dark as more guests arrived. Inside, the wide dining hall shined with golden light. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above. Polished floors reflected the glow, and long tables held trays of food prepared by the best chefs Richard Turner could find. Waiters in black uniforms weaved through the crowd, carrying glasses of champagne, the bubbles catching the light like stars. Richard Turner, a wealthy businessman with deep ties in both London and New York, had gathered his closest friends, associates, and even a few political figures to celebrate his wife Catherine's birthday. Richard was a tall man in his 50s, his hair just beginning to silver at the edges, but his voice carried the confidence of someone used to commanding a room. Catherine, dressed in a flowing sapphire blue gown, was radiant as she welcomed guests, her laughter rising above the music. She was the type of woman who made everyone feel welcome, no matter how nervous or shy they might be. Tonight, she was glowing. But in the middle of the glamour, no one noticed the quiet figure moving gently in the background. Elena, she was the young black maid in the Turner household, only 28 years old. Her skin was smooth and brown, her dark hair neatly tied back, her uniform spotless. What stood out most were her eyes, calm, sharp, always watching. She missed nothing, though she never drew attention to herself. Her job was simple: take care of Samuel and Grace, keep the house in order, and make sure everything ran smoothly. To the Turners, she was reliable and trustworthy. To the children, 10-year-old Samuel, curious and talkative, and 8-year-old Grace, shy and sweet Elena, was far more than a maid. She was their safe place, their comfort, the one they turned to when nightmares came or when the world outside felt too big. In their eyes, she was family. Before we continue with this story, let us know where you're watching from. Now, back to the story. As the evening began, Elena led Samuel and Grace upstairs where they peeked at the decorations from the balcony. Grace tugged Elena's hand. "You look pretty tonight, Elena," she whispered. Elena smiled softly. "Thank you, Grace. Now remember, stay close to me. These parties can get a little too loud." Samuel leaned over the railing wide-eyed. "Papa invited so many people. Do you think there will be cake soon?" Elena chuckled. "There is always cake at birthday, Samuel." Down below, Richard raised his glass, preparing to make a toast. Guests hushed as he spoke warmly about his wife, about her kindness, her patience, and how she had stood by him through every high and low. Catherine's eyes glistened with tears as she smiled at him. People clapped, laughter returned, and music swelled once more. Everything seemed perfect, but no one expected danger to walk through those gates. That night, while cars filled the driveway and glasses clinked in the hall, 3 armed men slipped in through the back. Dressed in black, their faces hidden by masks, they carried weapons that gleamed under the faint garden lights. Moving quickly, they forced their way inside. The shift in the air was immediate. Laughter died, screams broke out, and glasses shattered on the floor. Panic rippled through the hall like a wave as the guests ducked, tripped over chairs, and scrambled for safety. Catherine tried to shield them, but terror had taken over, and in the middle of the storm, Elena did not panic. Her instincts took over before her mind even caught up. She pulled Samuel and Grace close, crouching low, whispering softly into their ears, "Stay with me. Do not move. I will keep you safe." Her voice was calm, soft, but firm, like an anchor in the middle of chaos. The children clung to her, burying their faces in her arms. One of the robbers noticed her in the corner. "You there!" he barked, pointing the gun in her direction. "Bring those kids here." Gasps filled the room. Catherine let out a cry, and Richard shouted, "No! Leave them alone!" His voice cracked, but the robber ignored him, stepping closer. But Elena didn't move. She stood tall, her dark eyes steady on the man. She didn't shake, didn't cry, didn't beg. Her voice came out steady, controlled. "You're nervous," she said slowly. The room went quiet at her words. "Your hands are shaking. You don't want to hurt anyone tonight. Don't make a mistake." The robber froze for a moment, thrown off by her composure. "Give us the money, or people start dying." The crowd whimpered in fear. Richard's hands trembled as he tried to speak, offering money, anything to make them stop. Catherine clutched her children tighter, tears streaming down her face. But Elena gently pulled the children behind her, shielding them with her own body. Her eyes narrowed. Something in her had shifted. When the robber with the gun moved closer, swinging it carelessly toward the crowd, Elena acted. In a single fluid motion, she stepped forward, seized his wrist, twisted it sharply. The gun clattered to the floor. Before he could react, she kicked it across the room, far out of reach. Gasps filled the air. No one had ever seen her move like that. The second robber rushed at her, fury in his eyes. Elena spun, using his momentum against her, slamming him onto the polished floor. He groaned in pain, his mask slipping sideways. Guests screamed again, not from fear this time, but from sheer disbelief. The third robber hesitated, his gun raised, but Elena's eyes locked onto his. "Don't do it," she warned, her voice low, but commanding. "I promise you, you won't win tonight." His hands shook. He tried to steady the gun, but Elena was already moving. She closed the distance in seconds, twisting his arm until the weapon fell. She shoved him down, pinning him effortlessly. In less than a minute, 3 armed men who had terrorized a mansion full of people were helpless on the floor. The room was silent, broken only by the heavy breathing of frightened guests. Richard stared at Elena, his mouth open. Catherine sobbed quietly, her arms still wrapped around Samuel and Grace, who peeked out at Elena with wide, astonished eyes. Elena stood tall, breathing steadily, her composure unbroken. She had revealed something none of them expected. She was no ordinary maid. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police arrived minutes later, officers flooding into the mansion. They dragged the robbers away in handcuffs, still groaning from the blows Elena had delivered. Statements were taken, questions asked, but everyone pointed to the same person. "She saved us," one guest said. "She fought them all." Another added, "She's not just a maid," whispered Catherine, tears running down her cheeks. When the last officer left, the mansion was quiet again. Broken glass glittered on the floor. The smell of fear hung in the air, but the Turner family could not look away from Elena. Richard finally spoke, his voice low. "Who are you?" Elena lowered her eyes. She looked almost ashamed, as though revealing her strength was something she never meant to do. She spoke softly. "Before I came here, I served in the United States Army. I was trained for situations like this. I never wanted anyone to know. I came here to live quietly, to take care of your children, to find peace." After so much war, the room grew heavy with emotion. Catherine covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. Samuel and Grace clung to Elena's hands, looking up at her with awe. Richard stepped closer, his voice shaking. "You risked your life for us, for my children, for Catherine, for everyone here. You didn't have to. You could have run, but you didn't." Elena shook her head slowly. "I couldn't run. Not when 2 innocent children were behind me. Not when I knew I could stop them. Her voice wavered now, pain hidden beneath her strength. I've seen too many people die in front of me. I couldn't let it happen again. For a long moment, no one spoke. The guests who remained looked at her with deep respect, some even with tears in their eyes. She was no longer just the maid in the background. She was the woman who had saved them all. Catherine finally stepped forward. She wrapped her arms around Elena tightly, sobbing against her shoulder. "You're family now," she whispered. "You'll always be family. We owe you everything." Samuel and Grace joined the embrace, their little arms circling her waist. As Samuel whispered, "You're our hero, Elena." Richard's eyes glistened as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've taught me something tonight. I always thought courage was in power, in money, in control. But real courage, it's in sacrifice, it's in love, it's in people like you." That night ended with tears, gratitude, and a heavy lesson. Everyone in that room walked away, changed. They had come for a party but left with a story they would never forget. Elena sat quietly by herself later, her heart heavy but calm. She had revealed her secret, the life she wanted to leave behind. But maybe, she thought, maybe it was meant to happen. Maybe the children, the family, needed to see her for who she truly was, and the Turner family never again looked at her as just a maid. To them she became the embodiment of courage and discipline, a woman who risked everything, not for glory, but for love. The story spread in whispers and retellings how a young black maid had stood against armed robbers and saved a millionaire's family. But to Elena, it was not about fame. It was about protecting what mattered most, and in that, she found peace. Life went on, but the lesson remained. Sometimes the people we overlook, the ones we take for granted, hold the greatest strength of all. What do you think about this story? Leave a comment below this video. Thanks for watching, and God bless.